Okay. We're live. We are live. How's it going? Don't freak out. It took me a minute to get set up because Oscar took forever on his live and made me miss my hit time on my live. That's okay. Oscar's doing great. And very thankful for all of you who joined Oscar on his live because it's very encouraging to him, and he had some very good information. I was super impressed when he shared the footage that he shot in one of the caravans, the migrant caravans coming up through Latin America, and showed how they do the same thing that Hamas does. They weaponize women and children. And here's this migrant with a kid that's not even his own, holding him up to the cameras. You have to let us through. We have children. We have children. They're weaponizing those children against the West. And it should not be allowed. It should be called out. It should be pointed out. And if those children suffer, the moral fault does not fall on the people who won't let those migrants in. If the children in Gaza suffer, it's the moral culpability for that is not on the IDF. It's not on Israel. Okay? Yeah, I don't think we're going to get the beeper guy today. Bump up the volume, bump up the volume. Okay, there's a little more volume for you. Oh, yeah, beeper guy might actually come back and beep for us some more because he's gone now. Yeah, maybe. Okay, well, tonight I want to talk about something that happened today in Iran, which is one of those like, well, the plot thickens kind of things. Got my ceremonial cheese latte here, just to remind me of what's really important in life. Oscar, you want your cheese latte, man? Come on. You know you want it. He just does not appreciate the finer things in life. Oscar, this is totally up to your standards, I promise. It's not, he tried it, he doesn't believe me. Oh well. So, it is absolute child abuse. That's right. So I want to talk about something that happened in Iran today. Of course, we've all been sort of waiting on pins and needles to see when Iran would strike Israel as a retaliation for the retaliation of the retaliation of the retaliation of the retaliation and ad infinitum all the way back to 1947. Actually, all the way back to like 2600 BC, maybe. I was pointing out to Oscar today how Khan Yunis is right in the middle of the area that was known as Philistia, where the Philistines came from. As a matter of fact, the Gazans, the Palestinians, are descendants of the ancient Philistines. And as you know, if you've ever read your Bible or ever went to Sunday school, the Philistines and the Israelites didn't get along very well. They were not real friendly with each other, and that has gone on ever since to the present day. So that's exciting. So the latest retaliation by Iran for the retaliation from October 7th by Israel for the on and on and on, has been expected for more than a week, but it didn't happen. Still has not happened. And I was just on CBN's YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed over there, you need to. Go subscribe over on YouTube channel. Hey, Oscar, get on my live and put... Oscar? He left. Sorry, I was going to have him post his... I'll have him post his website here in a minute. Or maybe One Tired Mama can do it. So we've been expecting this retaliation for more than a week, and it hasn't happened. I was just talking on YouTube's live on CBN about how Iran has done the smart thing by weaponizing the weight. They've been exercising what we call in the military strategic patience. Strategic patience means let your enemy stew in his own juices, because that might hurt him more than if you actually attack him right now. And it'll certainly cost you a lot less. So that's what they've been doing. But something interesting happened today. Reportedly, this has not been completely corroborated in the media, and probably won't be because it's in Iran. There's not a lot of media in Iran that's independent that allows that's allowed to report what's happening in Iran. So we only hear from smatterings of things off social media. I did see a video of somebody trying to use an ATM inside Iran. It had Farsi on the screen, and it was not working. Yeah, I'll get Oscar over here. I don't know, Oscar's probably gone to lay down and get some of his beauty sleep, but if he comes back out here, I'll bring him out, and we'll make him drink some more of this cheese latte. So there was apparently a gigantic cyber attack in Iran today. And of course, nobody's claiming responsibility for this. We're not positive it even happened. Like I said, I saw some video of somebody trying to get money out of an ATM, and it was not working. Reports are that ATMs across the country have crashed. Nobody can get money out. The central bank of Iran is shut down. The account numbers, passwords, account balances, all the, personal information of millions of Iranians has been or will be leaked. And nobody is taking credit for this, which is not surprising. But then again, everybody's just kind of like looking at Israel over there. Israel going, what? Me? You looking at me? What, cyber attack? I don't know what you're talking about. So that's what Israel's doing. And they apparently are suffering in Iran right now because of this. Now, that's the short story. Let's talk about the little bit longer story. I'm not going to go super long tonight because it's already almost midnight, and I would like to get a little sleep since Oscar got me up at 2 o'clock this morning to go pick him up from the airport, and we've not gotten a lot of sleep since then. So I wanted to talk about some of the reasons why, assuming that the Israelis were involved in this attack, why they might try to do this. Okay? So if Israel was behind the cyber attack in Iran, some of the reasons, some of the strategy here might be, first of all, economic disruption. By crippling Iran's banking system, they could create significant economic chaos. It would strain the Iranian government's ability to pay its employees. It would strain everybody else's ability to get money out of the bank and pay all their bills. And that's obviously going to dilute, at the very least, the Iranian government's attention from dealing with this enemy that's 1,000 kilometers away. Number two, by crippling their infrastructure, the banking system is critical infrastructure. There's no two ways about it. By targeting that critical infrastructure, Israel could aim to demonstrate its ability once again. This is modus operandi for Israel. The last time in April when Iran struck Israel with those 330 rockets, missiles, and drones, Israel's response was more a show of capability than a show of destruction. We are capable of destroying some very important things to you, and if you're not careful, you might find out. So this is a form of deterrence on the part of Israel, if Israel's behind it, that would aim to show Iran what they're capable of doing. We can hurt you in lots and lots of ways, not just by shooting down all your missiles or blowing up your missile sites or your, whatever important infrastructure. This could also be a form of preemptive strike. Look, if there's one thing that Israel is good at, it's thinking outside the box when it comes to dealing with its enemies. It's had to, because it's tried everything else. It's tried all the obvious things, like, sanctions, strongly worded tweets. It's tried lots and lots, over 800 targeted killings in its history by the Mossad. They've even partnered up with rebel factions in countries like Iran and Lebanon and supported them, so had their own sorts of proxies that they employed against their enemies, just like Iran is doing to Israel. So they've tried everything else, and one thing that they've always prided themselves on is their ability to be creative in finding solutions to their problems. It's one of the things that makes Israel a great nation. And so this could be a preemptive strike. If Israel is pretty sure that Iran is about to strike them, because they've already pulled a lot of their missiles out of the silos and they're out there doing training in the western Iranian desert with these missiles, it's a good bet that what they're actually doing is setting up for a strike. So Israel pushes a couple buttons and Iran's banking system goes down. That's obviously going to, weaken Iran's ability to finance and even execute such an attack. Does that make sense? Now, number 4, it could be a form of psychological warfare. This attack could be intended to sow fear and division and uncertainty among and between Iran's people and its leadership, and showcase Israel's reach and abilities and technological prowess over their enemies. And that by itself might make Iran reconsider attacking Israel, because the message, the quiet part of this message would be, if you attack us, we can do even worse than this. Does that make sense? Number 5, it undermines confidence in Iran's government ability to take care of its people and to strike at its enemies. It makes Iran look weak. It erodes public trust even further in a country where that's already very, very tenuous. And so obviously, any domestic support that Iran still enjoys, which isn't much, could be eroded away even further if nobody can get any money. That's pretty simple. And last but not least, it's a strategic distraction. It is a method by which they can force Iran to divert attention and resources from this attack on Israel that they have planned to dealing with trying to get the ATMs back online. And everybody, even nations, only have a certain amount of attentional energy, the ability to pay attention to certain things. And then, since we're finite people, even a nation has got a finite amount of decisional energy. And so if they have to put a lot of that into fixing what's broken in their country, it stands to reason that they would have that much less to put into planning and executing an attack on Israel. So, again, we don't know if Israel is behind this. We don't even know if this attack actually happened because, again, Iran puts the kibosh on all of the media reporting anything negative out of Iran. So the only way we find out really what's going on in Iran is the few people who are able to get around the firewalls and get stuff out on social media. We've had people on my lives coming in from Iran, and I don't know if there's anybody on the live tonight that's from Iran, but, you know, it wouldn't be super safe for them to be saying what's going on, saying what's wrong, but this certainly could happen, okay? So if, there's a lot of ifs here, if there's an actual cyber attack that's happened inside Iran, if Iran's financial system is shut down because of it, and if Iran was behind it, if Israel was behind it, well, these are the reasons why they might do that I've just enumerated here. Okay, does that make sense? Now, to kind of wrap that up, let's look at where Iran stands right now, because, you know, the economic situation in Iran, according to the Iranians that I've spoken to in Armenia, is somewhere south of terrible. It's already very bad economically in Iran. And more than 80% of the people in Iran despise the regime, according to the people that I've talked to. So why is the economy so bad in Iran right now? Well, number one, sanctions. You know, if you're a global jerk, if you're the world's number one state sponsor of terror, then it's likely that you're not going to have a lot of countries that want to be friendly with you. And those countries that do want to be friendly with you, like North Korea and Russia, are going to have their own problems with sanctions. And so when the rest of the world, the civilized world, puts sanctions on your economy, it's going to bite a little bit. Now, as I've mentioned before, the Iranians have worked very hard to overcome and get around those sanctions, and there are plenty of ways for them to do it. I'll give you one easy example out of the sanctions on Russia. We, at the beginning of the war in Ukraine, put sanctions on Russia that barred any Russian airlines from flying to Western countries. So any Russians who wanted to vacation in Greece can't get there on a Russian airline. You can't go to Greece if you're from Russia directly. There are no more direct flights out of Russia to anywhere in Western Europe. Does that mean that there are no Russians going on vacation in Athens? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because why? Well, Russians can still get on a plane and fly to Armenia, and Armenia is not under any sanctions. So there are plenty of flights that fly out of Armenia. There's even a direct flight from Yerevan to Athens. So if a Russian really wants to go on vacation in Athens, he can't get a direct flight anymore out of Moscow, but what he can do is just take a direct flight to Yerevan and he'd flight from Yerevan to Athens, and there he goes. Well, it might be a little more hassle, but it's fairly easy for him to get around those restrictions. Does that, you get what I'm playing at here? So the United States had reimposed U.S. sanctions, which barred any American companies from doing business with Iran. So if you grow apples in Washington State and you wanted to sell them to Iran and export them out there, you can't do that anymore. But you can sell them to Armenia. You can sell your apples to Armenia all day long, and those apples can get then resold from Armenia into Iran. That makes, I mean, it might not be hard to understand and might not seem like such a big deal if we're talking about apples, but what if we're talking about computer chips? Computer chips that can be used in things like, oh, I don't know, missiles and drones that could strike at our allies, and other mechanical parts that might be used in things like Iran's Bayraktar drones that are being used, or the Shahed drones that are being used as suicide drones in Iran, and in Ukraine and elsewhere. Well, as it turns out, there are parts inside the Shahed 136 drone that is being used by Russia against Ukraine on a daily basis now. There's 26 different American companies or Canadian companies that provide parts that end up in those suicide drones that are killing Ukrainians. This is a big problem, and it shows that Iran can get around those sanctions if it really wants to. It really doesn't have the ability. I mean, it would take it years probably to ramp up its own production of those parts or those computer chips or something like that, if they could even do it. Some of that stuff is too complex for Iran, even too complex for Russia, so they have to get it from somewhere else. But, so the sanctions, they can't get around the sanctions, but they do have an effect, and it has had an economic bite on Iran. Also, Iran's oil exports, which have been a major source of revenue, to say the least, have been severely curtailed by the sanctions, which bar anyone in the Western world, us and our allies, from buying oil from Iran. And any country that does buy oil from Iran on the open market is subject to sanctions as well. So China came up with this great way to help them get around that one by coming up with a fleet of uninsured ghost ships plying the waters of the international sea. And so rather than Iran directly loading up tankers in its ports with oil and taking them to China, what they do is they do these ship-to-ship transfers where Iranian ship loads up, goes out to sea, somewhere late at night out in the middle of the ocean, another ship pulls up alongside it, and they transfer the oil. They pump the oil from one tanker to another. Then the unnamed ghost ship tanker goes and docks in China. We know for a fact this is happening, and all we would have to do is sink a couple of those ghost ships, and that practice would stop. But the environmentalists would literally set their hair on fire probably if they sunk a couple of oil tankers even in the middle of the ocean. And so they just let it happen. Maybe it'd be better just send Navy SEALs out to these ghost ships and just start taking them over on the high seas and pull up an American tanker next to it, pump all the oil into the American tanker, and then send that ghost ship to the bottom. What I'm saying is these ghost ships still have owners, and the owners still want to make a profit. And if their ship is at the bottom of the ocean, it's a little bit harder to do that. Does that make sense? Okay. I keep saying, does that make sense? I don't know why I keep doing that tonight. Maybe because I'm actually using notes for once. Number two, Iran's economy is not doing well because of inflation and currency devaluation. So they, like many other countries, including the United States, have been running their printing presses as fast as they possibly can and pumping reals into the market, which causes massive inflation, reduces the purchasing power of its people. It's like a hidden tax on everybody who holds reals, and it really erodes purchasing power, makes everything just out of reach for your average Iranians. Now, there are still the Iranians who are a little more equal than others, who live large on the largesse of the government, and they keep the regime in power, and they get their loyalties bought off. That's how tyrants and despots do it. They get a bunch of their buddies around and they say, you make sure that I stay in power, and I'll give you this industry, I'll give you that industry, I'll make you a billionaire, I'll make you a billionaire, just remember where your largesse comes from when it's time to rig the vote. And that's what they do. But the Iranian rial has suffered severe depreciation against other currencies because of the shenanigans that they're pulling with their currency. And so this hurts their economy, makes the government less popular with the people, just like what we're seeing in the United States. Number three, their economy sucks because of economic mismanagement. The corruption and inefficiency in the Iranian government is legend, and the state-owned enterprises, which are many, are also very corrupt, and so that has further weakened the economy inside Iran. Iran has this weird subsidy system, especially for energy, and that's been a real burden on the state. So what they do is they try to, let's say, okay, we want to have an effect. We want to be able to meddle in the affairs of Iraq next door. So what we do is we subsidize our own energy, our own oil, and make it cheaper for Iraq to buy it. And that way Iraq is getting a good deal from us. They'll keep coming back to us. And when we need a favor, we can pull on those short strings, and Iraq will have to jump if they want to keep their, golden goose alive, for lack of a better term. So Venezuela did the same thing. It did not turn out well when Venezuela's economy really sank, and they had to start reining in all those subsidies and just canceling them all around Latin America, Haiti, places like that. They got a lot of people very, very mad at them. So the subsidy system is a double-edged sword, and it could definitely come back to bite them if their economy gets too bad for them to continue. What it does is like I said, it just creates a very big financial burden on the state, and it has some national security benefits, but sometimes the costs start to outweigh the benefits, and I think Iran is coming to that point. Now, number four, there's a lot of social unrest in Iran. You've probably heard about that. They're absolutely brutal against women, and that has caused a lot of riots. It's caused a lot of protests. It's caused a lot of young people to say, you know what, screw this government. And I've even seen videos coming out of Iran where young people are making sport out of running up behind the mullahs, the spiritual leaders that wear their turbans, running up behind these guys with the turbans and just pow, knocking the turbans off their head and then running off. Now, that's a kid with a little bit of cojones, if you ask me, because that's a real good way to get you and your whole family disappeared into the prison system of Iran and never seen again. But unemployment is also very high, so the kids don't have a lot of other stuff to do but go whack mullahs in the head. And that's a pretty persistent issue. Now, agriculture. The agricultural sector has been affected because of water shortages in Iran, and those water shortages are another result of mismanagement by the government of their resources. So it's not, you'll hear CNN say, climate change has caused drought inside Iran. Yeah, no, it's not climate change. It's a stupid government doing stupid things with their resources and for stupid reasons as well, and causing a water shortage which affects agriculture and makes everybody poorer. The manufacturing industry is struggling with outdated infrastructure, a lack of investment, and because of the sanctions, difficulty in importing the things that they need to keep the industry going. So one of the reasons why the former president, Raisi of Iran, met Jesus by flying into a mountain, not for long, but stood before the Most High God very quickly after running his helicopter into a mountain. One of the reasons they believe that happened is because the American gunships, helicopters that he was flying in were very difficult to maintain because they can't get parts for those things. So imagine, extrapolate that throughout all, technological industry in Iran, and Iran's economy suffers greatly because of that. Now, Iran has made efforts to make its economy more resilient. It has tried to develop what it calls a resistance economy. That resistance economy is focused on being more self-sufficient, kind of like if you think about like during COVID, when we found out that, oh gosh, all of our surgical masks are being made in China. And now we have this virus and we don't have any surgical masks. And so maybe we need to start bringing some of those industries back home so that we're not so dependent on foreign countries. Well, that's the resilience economy that, or I'm sorry, the resistance economy that Iran has tried to build so that it can reduce its reliance on imports. That includes all kinds of efforts, not just to boost domestic production and trade, but to boost trade with non-Western countries like Russia and China. There is a great dissatisfaction in Iran by the public. The combination of all this economic hardship, inflation, unemployment, corruption has led to significant public dissatisfaction as seen in all these protests. And that social unrest and frustration with the government's handling of its own economy makes it more difficult for Iran to pose a threat to its enemies. And finally, external pressures, ongoing geopolitical tensions, particularly with the West, continue to put pressure on Iran both politically and economically. The potential for military conflict and sanctions and further sanctions makes it risky for Iran to continue down the path that they're on. And so we heard from somebody on the CBN Live I did a little while ago that they were from Iran, and they were saying Israel doesn't have to worry about a full-scale war with Iran because Iran is in such bad shape. Of course, they hide it because the government has a monopoly on the media, but Iran is in very, very bad economic shape. And so they got bigger fish to fry than this ongoing tit for tat with Israel. That doesn't mean they're about to give up on it. It just means that maybe things aren't as scary for those of us that are here in Israel as everybody is trying to make them. I've been trying to give you a very balanced perspective, an understanding of the issues behind this war. Because it's easy when you watch a lot of news to get really wound up and just kind of get your undies in a bunch about the fact that, oh my gosh, Israel's about to be destroyed. Well, for this and a lot of other reasons, no, Israel is not about to be destroyed. Israel is going to come out on top of this. There may be an attack from Iran. Iran may feel like they don't have anything else to lose, and so say, Hail Mary. Let's just attack Israel, and maybe our people will finally like us if we can manage to succeed. But I can promise you, you don't win wars with missiles, and that's the only thing Iran can bring to bear against Israel, and that and cyber attacks. And so, there we go. Now, why are you teary, one-tired mama? Did I miss something? I'm sorry, I haven't been watching the chat because I'm trying to keep my train of thought here. People complain when I get distracted by the comments over here, so I try to pay attention to just doing my thing until I get to the end, and then I'll go talk to the comments. T-shirts with a cartoon caricature of you trying to do a live with the beeper guy in the background. I want one. Okay, somebody come up with a design, and maybe we'll put them up for sale on the website. Folks, if you haven't gone over and subscribed over at chuckholtcom. As I mentioned on the CBN Live, there's so much content that I'm not able to show you on YouTube because of their obscure and complicated and kind of arcane community standards. There are certain things that if I put them up, if I even talk about them, will get me, just shut off. And so if I want to keep my channel on YouTube, I can't show you a lot of stuff that actually will give you a lot of good context about this war. Some of it is too graphic to show on YouTube, understand that. Some of it is just things that YouTube is going to ban me for. I mean, even the craziest thing, like a video I made about something where I was in public and walking down through a marketplace, and somebody in the marketplace had a radio or something playing, and there was music on the radio, and as I walked by, that music got recorded on the video, and YouTube demonetized me for, unauthorized use of copyrighted material. Go figure, So all that to say, I would recommend that you take a moment, go to chuckholtcom. You can subscribe over there. You can also support me there, both either monthly or annually or one-time support. And that helps me to continue to do this job and to bring you the reports from right here on the ground and tell you, look, things are not blowing up in Jerusalem. And the other night I just left it running and just went to bed and let you just watch the skyline of Jerusalem. And we still had over 1,000 people just watching it all night long, because that would give them a sense of peace to know Jerusalem's still here, the alarms are not going off, bombs are not falling, this is, things are okay. And I got lots of feedback on that, asking me to do that more. So maybe I will. We'll try to find some places and times where that's appropriate. So please go to chuckholtcom and support me over there. I would love to get to the point where I could just use that money to just help the people that we meet around the world. And, that's all we did with it. But we've got to grow to do that, and we can grow in several ways. You can help us grow by commenting on this video. That tells YouTube people are interested in it. Hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, hit the notification bell. All of that stuff helps, and it doesn't cost you anything. If you do want to support us financially, you can do that by going to chuckholtcom or go to my link tree where I have Venmo and Cash App and PayPal and all the rest, places like that. So that's about all I've got for tonight. I wanted to see if there were any questions here that I can answer real quick. If your question is not in all caps and prefaced by the word question, I'm probably not going to see it as I'm scrolling by here really quickly. So that's your cue, if you have a question, to write question and then put your question in all caps. Here's one by Cindy Hurd. Why does our current administration want us to be dependent on other countries? Well, our current administration is run by globalists, and globalists believe that is good for the entire world economically, for the entire world to be connected economically. And so it's a standard, economics 101 that you learn in college, that if there's two of us in the house and my wife can iron 10 shirts an hour and I can iron 1 shirt an hour and probably burn it, then it's probably better if my wife does the ironing and I do something that she doesn't do as well. And then we get a lot more done. We can be a lot more productive. What's going on here? Wow, there's somebody really mad. There's somebody really, really mad down there. Wow, that's an awful Israeli thing to do. He's just screaming because there's people that stand outside the hotel and make noise. And this is a residential neighborhood, so. Some guy in the apartment down there was just screaming, shut the F up, over and over and over again at these 3 teenagers that are sitting down here having a conversation. That's classy. All right, well, whatever. So to answer your question, globalists believe that the best thing to do would be to distribute around the world. Each country has its specialty, its thing that it does well. So Indonesia makes clothes really cheaply, so we get our clothes from Indonesia. The United States makes computer chips and software very well, so we export that around, and everybody shares, and then everybody gets better. Rising tide lifts all boats, blah, blah, blah. But there are some real drawbacks to that, as we saw during the 2021 timeframe. I'm not allowed to say, I really got to be careful even mentioning what happened in that time frame. But you know what I'm saying. We found out that it wasn't all that great to have things that we might end up really needing being made in other countries, and then we can't get them when we need them. Israel has found that out with this war because they've got to get a lot of their ammunition from other countries. And so if those countries suddenly decide they don't want to provide that ammunition, that creates a real problem for Israel. Israel needs to create more of their stuff here at home. Question, is there any more information on the threat from Turkey? I have not seen any, Tim. I'm sorry, I haven't seen any more threats from Turkey. Turkey talks a big game, but they're not going to get involved in this. Yeah, that guy was just loudmouth guy. He was not even beeper guy. He's just loudmouth guy out there screaming. Why did the current government recently send $100 billion to Iran for internet securities and power to Iran? Yeah. How did the current government in the United States think that doing things like that is a good idea is anybody's guess, other than the fact that there are people within the U.S. presidential administration who have Iranian backing themselves and are very sweet on Iran and definitely prefer Iran over Israel because they're depraved. So I think there are a lot of deluded people in the U.S. presidential administration who really believe that if we're just nice enough to those Iranians, they'll quit being such a problem. They won't cause so much trouble. If we just be nice to them, we just have to be nice to them. And obviously that isn't going to work with a bunch of extremists. Why don't conservatives have their own internet with conservative platforms? Well, we tried that. The problem is it's not that much fun. And, we have Rumble, we have Truth Social, things like that. But if you want to, just live in an echo chamber, then you can go over there. My videos, a lot of my videos get posted over on Rumble, but they get like very few views because there's just not that many people over there. These killer apps like YouTube have cornered the market in many ways on the ability to actually make money by making videos, and that's why people do it. So yeah, please hit the thumbs up button. Appreciate that. Okay, so that's all I've got for today. Can I help you start your own merch line? The people want shirts. Well, send me an email, vpart, hotzoneholton@gmail.com. Did Oscar try the cheese latte? Yes, he did on the CBN Live, at the beginning of the CBN Live, and then he started spouting profanities and I had to kick him off. So he got the BOOT because little grandmas on the CBN Live obviously don't need to be hearing that stuff anywhere, okay? All right, is the island of Cyprus safe to be in? I would say, Heidi, yes, the island of Cyprus is perfectly safe. I was there, I don't know, a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, and it was fine. People out enjoying themselves, not a big deal. Please, a plaque party. Diane Britson. Hi, Diane. Thank you very much for your generosity to Oscar, Diane. He's very grateful. He was just telling me tonight how grateful he is for Diane's generosity. He's like, holy cow, who bought me like 40 coffees? That's amazing. And that was Diane. Diane's an extremely generous, wonderful person, and I really enjoyed having her in Armenia with us a couple years ago. So is it hard to get days and nights back in order when you come back to the U.S.? Not really for me. I don't suffer a lot from jet lag. I say because it's because I do a lot of jetting, but I don't do a lot of lagging. I also have learned some strategies for not being subject to jet lag to begin with. So, all right, it's 12:30. It's after midnight here. I need to get some sleep, so I'm going to let you go. But thank you very much for being a part of the Hot Zone. Again, please go and go to chuckholtcom.com and support me over there if you feel so led. And make sure you tell your friends about the reporting we do here. We put a lot of work into this, obviously, staying up till midnight every night doing these lives and stuff, along with our regular duties. So we appreciate all of you who come on here faithfully, especially One Tired Mama Snow White and my wife and Nathan, who are all moderating and keeping the trolls at bay. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are fantastic. So thank you very much. Okay, God bless you, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.